We've been talking a lot about the NBA draft, of course, because it is draft season, and the Chicago Bulls have now officially worked out both Keaton, Wagler, and Morez Johnson for in-person pre-draft workouts. Is this a sign that the Chicago Bulls could be moving back into the lottery to get that third first-round pick that we heard about last week? We're talking a little bit about that. Plus, Yaxel Lendeborg could end up being the player that falls out of the lottery and right in the lap of the Chicago Bulls at number 15. We're going to talk a little bit about that, the speculation around that, and more, because we got stuff on the coaching search too. Both Jerry Stackhouse and Micah Nori have talked about the Chicago Bulls' pursuit of them as their head coach. We're going to break it all down and more right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. And before we start the content, though, I need y'all to hit the subscribe button. We got a goal of getting to 50,000 subscribers by the start of the 2026-27 season. It's a very lofty goal that we're trying to get done in 4 months here. And I need the 42% of y'all that watch these videos every single day but are not subscribed. I need y'all to hit that subscribe button because you're here anyway. Stop freeloading. Help a brother out. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today. So yesterday we talked about Hoops Hype and them tracking the in-person workouts for every team in the NBA. And at that point in time, all the Bulls workouts were all guards. That was it. They only worked out guards. And it raised some question on what that means the Chicago Bulls are planning to do at number 15 and if they're looking heavily at guard there. And I said, even on yesterday's episode, do not be surprised if names get added to this list pretty rapidly, and we've had exactly that happen. The Chicago Bulls have now also worked out Keaton Wagler, the guard out of Illinois, who is projected to be a shooting guard at the next level, and they've worked out Morez Johnson, just a defensive mantra up in that front court as well. He has also been added, the power forward out of Michigan, but I do think he has the upside of playing center at the next level. Now, these are two of the bigger names, especially Keaton Wagler. Keaton Wagler makes it interesting because the Bulls, from everything that we've heard in the mock drafts and everything, Keaton Wagler is now almost locked in as a top 5 to 8 pick in that draft, right? Like that's probably the 5 to 8 is the range that you're looking for Keaton Wagler to go in. Now, this is complete speculation. This part of it is we heard last week that Bryson Graham wanted to trade back into the first round, not back from number 4, but back into the first round, pick up an additional first round pick. At that time, I had speculated, hey, maybe the Bulls are just looking to move back into the end of the first round with their second round pick rather than wait till the second round. They have their eyes on somebody. And I still think that's probably the most logical choice. But this now adds some questions on, are the Bulls actually maybe trying to move back up from number 15 back into that lottery to get either one of these guys? Both Keaton Wagler and Morez Johnson at this time project to be more lottery picks. Now, one thing I've said about the lottery is that people have like 25 players going in the top 15 picks, so somebody's got to fall out of that lottery, and the Bulls can be in prime position at 15 to take advantage of those guys. But Keaton Wagler, for example, you guys know I'm an Illinois fan. I do technically have a Fighting the Line podcast and YouTube page. I've just not posted on it in like 6 months. I need to get that together. This Bulls season had me up and down in turmoil. But Keaton Wagler is interesting because he brings the dynamic scoring that guards have. And, there's a question on how much defensive ceiling is there with Keaton Wagler, but there's just no doubt about it. Keaton Wagler is projects to be a go-to scorer at the next level. And, for you having a guard like Josh Giddey, if you end up getting, a guy like Caleb Wilson at number 4, if somehow you're able to add Keaton Wagler to that takes care of your scoring. Like, people have asked, well, if you have Keaton Wagler, if you have Caleb Wilson and you draft these guys, like, where's the shooting going to come from? And a guy like Keaton Wagler can bring that. Now, these in-person workouts don't necessarily mean that that's the only players that the Bulls are going to be, focusing on in that. But I do think that it gives an added, layer of, hey, look out for this because it could be something, here that the Chicago Bulls are looking to do. Take that with a grain of salt. Morez Johnson is a player that a lot of Bulls fans have started falling in love with lately, and for big reason, right? You talk about the defensive upside that he has there. I think that, and people have said, well, he can't play. No, he can play center. At this point, people have fallen into this thing where now everybody's like, you need a 7'3" center in modern. How many 7'3" people do you think is going to be in the NBA that's also going to be good? If you like, you don't have to be 7'3" to be a center in the NBA. Bam has been surviving perfectly fine. Donovan Clegan isn't even that big, and he gets it done. So it really depends on. It's more about length and toughness, right? If you are going to be a 6'9" center at the NBA level, you got to be tough as shit. And Morez Johnson is tough. He's going to block shots. He's going to get rebounds. Like I've said before, Daymar, Morez Johnson, and Yaxel all kind of ate into each other's rebounds and blocks. So I think all those guys have more capability to do some of the things more than what we've seen there. I think that's going to stand out in regards to that too. So I think when you look at this, right, when you look at how that is that official workout for Keaton Wagler, at least means the Bulls wanted an up-close look at Keaton Wagler, and maybe it's just like they're doing their due diligence. That's probably what it's most likely here, and I don't mean or want to start rumor, but that's probably the most likely thing here is that they're doing their due diligence. They just want to see, hey, if we bring in Keaton Wagler and he completely wows us, all right, let's look at that, right? Morez Johnson is definitely a name that I've been saying for a while Bulls fans to pay attention to. But like I've said, workouts do not guarantee draft intent. They just show that the front office is gathering information and gathering all the information that they can possibly, right? Graham could be targeting the players who match a tougher, more athletic Bulls identity that many people think that he's going to want to build with the Bulls anyway. So take that for what it is, but the Bulls have now officially worked out both Keaton Wagler and Morez Johnson, and I love hearing that. I really do love hearing that. And I think that these are guys that really work a lot out for the Chicago Bulls. But that's not the only draft news that we have, right? And I'm leading with the draft news today because that's all anybody wants to talk about. There's growing speculation around the league that Yaxel Lendeborg could fall out of the lottery. Now, this is due to age. This is due to how many players. When you look at how this draft process started, right? When players like, for example, Cam Carr, right? Players like Hans Steinbach were all kind of projected to go late first round pick, right? And as these guys' names have risen, it means naturally somebody's going to drop down. Now, those guys could all fall. Like yesterday, we talked about LeBaron Philon, I believe it's how you pronounce it, as you guys corrected me. I think that you look at, he's a guy that people have talked about now could fall out of the lottery. Somebody's going to fall. Nate Amit is a guy that people initially projected to be a top 10 pick, can now fall out of the lottery because people are like he's just more raw. Somebody is going to fall out of the lottery, and there's growing speculation it could be Yaxel Lendeborg. Now, I still personally think if the Golden State Warriors, the OKC Thunder stay there at 11 or 12, they could be a team that's in on Yaxel because they want win-now players. He fits that at the 24-year-old age for sure, right? And so you got to look at that part of it. But if he makes it past, or those two teams trade out and or whatever, teams could want to focus on younger players, right? So there's going to be, when you look at this group between Braden Burries, Mikael Brown, Nate Amit, Yaxel Lendeborg, LeBaron, somebody is going to fall out of the lottery. If Cam Carr is moving into the lottery, if Heinz Steinbach is moving into the lottery, one of those guys are going to fall right outside the lottery. And you only need two of them, like two teams to go a different route, and somebody's going to fall. And that could potentially be Yaxel Lendeborg. And while older, and I had my issues with Yaxel when the Bulls were drafting when we talked about it at number 9, because I just think where the Bulls are, you want to go younger. But if you go Cam Boozer, Caleb Wilson, and then Yaxel, at number 15, the high floor of Yaxel Lendeborg makes it to where it's worth a look anyway. Like that's Yaxel Lendeborg is that level of player. And reportedly from, my source, which again, take it with a grain of salt. I'm not even going to push I'm not Evan Sider. I'm not going to act like my sources have all the information. But according to my source is that, there's some internally within the Bulls organization that look at Yaxel as a can't miss prospect if he's there at number 15. So, and I think at number 15, there's a lot of reason to think that. This is a guy who plays on both sides of the ball, defense, offense. He has that legit size at 6'9", and he has over 7 foot wingspan. What he did scoring wise last year was huge. We know he's a rebounder. He's just a guy that's just going to go out there and perform for you and play well. And with him coming on late to basketball, I still think there's still, even at 24, there's still some things that he is still learning as well, because he wasn't one of those guys that was playing basketball since he was a young kid. So if that ends up being the case, and I still say if, I think that that's a good prospect for the Chicago Bulls. At number 15, I'd say this, like Yaxel could be huge for the Bulls at number 15, but it does present this. Your forward rotation gets very clogged at that point. If you're going to go Caleb Wilson at 4, Yaxel Lendeborg at 14, you already got Morez Buzelis on your roster. You got Noah Essengay. You got Jalen Smith here. And I don't mean that as a bad thing. Competition brings the best out of people, right? And you could very well work into the sense that at that point, maybe the Bulls have the best forward rotation. And like we're talking about 2 or 3 years down the road, maybe the Bulls have the best forward rotation in basketball. If you're talking about Morez, Caleb Wilson, Yaxel, and if Noah Essengay ends up working, and Noah could end up playing some center minutes as well, as he's over 7 feet tall now. We just got to see, how he's going to deal with the physicality. And I even think Yaxel Lendeborg can play some small ball center. You don't want him starting as your center, but he can play some small ball center in some lineups. The Bulls can have a dangerous rotation there of all kind of players that do a little bit of everything. So, we'll see what happens there. Again, it's speculation based off who falls in the draft, and we'll see, right? But there's another player that now is starting to gain traction as somebody that the Bulls could take a look at, and that is Allen Graves. Now, this is something that was mentioned recently. This is a guy who played with Santa Clara last year. He was a freshman, 6'9", 225 pounds. Mike Babcock said this, who's a draft analyst. He said this: while Graves doesn't wow you with athleticism or flash, he does a lot of the little things that can contribute to winning and has the well-rounded skill set to become a highly productive connective piece. Now, when you look at most mocks, they have him going towards the end of the first. So I wonder if the interest here from the Bulls is more so if he goes and falls into the second round, right? Some of the strengths that are there for him, he stays connected. He's a solid playmaker at that forward position, has really good touch and scoring versatility in the interior of it. His defensive awareness is really good. And for even a player that's not that hugely athletic, he really does have really good off-ball moves and off-ball instincts, which are really good there. The shooting mechanics are a little bit rough for him, right? And I think that's something that you're going to have to look to work out. He does have upside shooting-wise, but the release is a little bit slow right now. And I just wonder if it never speeds up, if that's going to be something that harpens him at the next level, right? He's not the most vertical player. He doesn't have the highest leaps or anything like that. He's skilled, but not necessarily hugely athletic. And right now, he does have a problem with foul trouble as well. Now, with him going to, Santa Clara, smaller school, there's some questions as well about the level of competition he faced in college. But I think if this is a guy that's starting to pop up on the Bulls' radar, it means that they're probably doing their due diligence in a case like that. And, they're just trying to leave all their options open for that. You also look at what he's able to do, like I said, on both sides of the ball. That's a player that you really like with that one. More defensive-minded forward, and the Bulls do need defense. We know, Allen Graves fits slap for the most part, right? The athleticism part may be a little bit off there, but he fits almost everything else with slap if that's what Bryson Graham is trying to do. So it makes some sense in regards to that one when it comes down to it. So I think that what we're seeing is that, like, again, the Bulls, if you're taking all of this and just kind of want it simplified into one statement, the Bulls are leaving everything open. And it seems like they may be fully comfortable taking the best player available at both their draft picks, regardless of the position they play. And, for some, they're going to ask if that's the right motive to go with, but I think that it is. I think that it very much so is. So, that's what Bryson Graham has, and, we'll see what Bryson Graham continues to have planned for the Chicago Bulls in this new era to start off the Bulls, but I'm excited. So, just to recap what we talked about so far, Keaton Wagler and Morez Johnson Jr. have both had their official workouts for the Chicago Bulls. Take that for what you will. And, that doesn't necessarily mean that the Bulls intend to draft them. It could just be data collection, getting all your information. And then there's starting to be some buzz around Yaxel Lendeborg potentially falling at number 15 for the Chicago Bulls. Well, for anyone, falling outside the lottery. And if he does, I think that would be a prime position to take a player with such a high floor like Yaxel Lendeborg. And it just questions about the forward rotation at that point in time. So let me know what you guys think in regards to all that down below. But the coaching search is still something for the Chicago Bulls, and many Bulls fans are wondering, what the fuck is going on with the coaching search? Well, luckily, we have had quotes from both Jerry Stackhouse and Micah Nori in regards to the coaching search in Chicago and their specific interviews with them. Jerry Stackhouse was on Run It Back on FanDuel TV, and he was asked about the Chicago Bulls coaching search, and he said this: I think my dad had a great saying, beggars can't be choosers. For me, it's just getting the opportunity to coach at the highest level. It's level I played at for the longest time. When I look at any of these situations, I can see myself sliding in and bringing what I feel it takes to win. having that leadership quality of understanding the development. I'm really excited about development. I think that's one of my strong suits, being able to get guys better, show them how to play the right way, and understanding what it takes to win at this level. Now, I don't like the fact that he started off with beggars can't be choosers, because it comes off like, I don't know if I really want the Chicago Bulls job, but it's open and I'll take it because I could develop players. So I just want to hear coaches that are kind of more excited about taking the job. Now, y'all know Jerry Stackhouse is not one of my favorite candidates for this role at all, but he is the favorite of some Bulls fans, and he could end up being the right guy for the job. Working under Steve Kerr with the Golden State Warriors, he didn't necessarily have the best head coaching experience at Vanderbilt, and that is what it is. The things that go into that, just because you didn't have necessarily the huge amount of success one place doesn't mean that you can't be successful at a different level. And I think that, Jerry Stackhouse is just looking at this and saying, there are 3 openings right now: Portland, Dallas, Chicago. That's it. And all those destinations are all going to be focused very heavily on player development. So he's taking the right pitch, I think, because if he's a candidate for those other positions as well, development is going to be a big focus there. So Jerry Stackhouse saying the right things, and we'll see if he actually is. I'm surprised we haven't kind of heard more about this search yet and kind of the next steps of this search. But, hearing from the candidates and how they feel about it is good too. Micah Nori also was interviewed a little bit about it as well. He was on Sirius XM's NBA radio, and he said this: had just some fillers out with Chicago. They're very, very early in their stage. And then Portland, same thing. Just some, conversations here and there, nothing too serious. Now, some Bulls fans have been saying that Micah Nori may be the favorite to land this job. And now that you hear from Micah Nori's own mouth that he's had some talks, but nothing too serious, it makes me wonder if this first round of talks has just been information gathering kind of, and then the Bulls will have like their final interview list, and that may be down to 2, 3, 4 candidates. And if we hear that at the end of this week, which we're vastly approaching, and then beginning of next week, keep in mind, we did hear second week of June is probably when the Bulls are going to make their hire. We're coming to the end of the first week of June, and so we could be seeing that hire get closer and closer. So let me know what you guys think down below. Hearing from the coaches in regards to this and what that means for them. Do you think that this is a good phase for the Chicago Bulls? Do you think, like Micah Nori, do you like Jerry Stackhouse? These are the 2 of the more seasoned vet as far as assistants on benches that could come in and help the Chicago Bulls. Let me know what you guys think about that down below. Last topic of the day that I want to end it with, we got some great quotes from Caleb Wilson in regards to, his plans of the Chicago. And like I said before, Caleb Wilson clearly wants to be a Chicago Bull. He talks so specifically about the Chicago Bulls that it's crazy. Now, he is the ESPN player correspondent for the NBA Finals, right? Before Game 1 on yesterday, he told his colleagues that if the Bulls were to draft him, he intends to shake things up, saying this: "I'm a winner. I'm going to change that culture. I'm going to bring it back to what it was for sure. It's a great pipeline, North Carolina. Hopefully I can go in and contribute and maybe turn things around. I'm looking forward to it." I tell y'all all the time, what I get excited about is people who want to wear the Chicago Bulls jersey. It's very simple. Now, one could say, well, Haize, it's the most likely scenario is him going to the Bulls, so it just really kind of shows he's embracing that this is probably the most likely place he's going. And you're right. I'm not saying you're wrong, no. You are absolutely right. The consensus number 4, going to the number 4, the team with the number 4 overall pick, it just makes sense, right? But I think that this feel for Caleb Wilson even happened in the draft lottery and the draft combine. I just think that Caleb Wilson seems like a player that wants to be a Chicago Bull, and already having the mindset on how you need to change the culture is right there. Caleb Wilson has been compared to KG as far as the level of competitiveness he has. Not the type of player he's going to turn into, but the competitive nature and the edge that Caleb Wilson has. If he can bring that competitive edge to the Chicago Bulls, that's what we need. We need culture building, right? We have not had a culture here. We need the right front office, which we'll see if Bryson Graham's that. We need the right coach, and then we need the right on-the-court identity to really change a culture here in Chicago. I talked about how watching playoff basketball, seeing these crowds get as fired up as what they fired up, we already know what the UC will do if the Bulls make the playoffs. I need that. I want that from my team. I need to see the Chicago Bulls. I want to see Bulls fans in a meaningful playoff series get excited about their team. That's what I want to see. And so hearing anybody that talks so glowingly about coming in and changing the culture for the Chicago Bulls, you know what it made me feel like? It made me feel the same way I felt when Bryson Graham had his introductory press conference and he said, listen, I've been a Bulls fan all my life. I was excited about this role. All that's like, I want people that are excited to come in here and change it, because guess what? We've had people in here, whether it's players, whether it's front office, no matter what, whether it's coaches with Boylan or whatever else, that just didn't seem fired up about culture. That's what you need. You need to have the right culture. You need to have the right standard set if you really want to be a consistent franchise. Could Caleb Wilson be that culture setter for the Chicago Bulls? That's what you hope if the Bulls draft him, right? No guarantees, but that is what you hope. So let's see if what happens here. If Caleb Wilson ends up being the call, which is still the most likely scenario, I hope that he comes in here and he helps reshape a culture, and that we see the impact that his competitive nature leaves out on the basketball court for the Chicago Bulls. But that's where I am with it. The coaching search feels slow for many fans and myself, but it's time for Bryson Graham to get the right hire. Whether that's Jerry Stackhouse, whether that's Micah Nori, we'll see. It's good to hear that they have confirmed they're in contact with the Chicago Bulls. And now let's see what the Bulls do with things. And then when you talk about culture, Caleb Wilson, the confidence that he has matters. The drive that he has to be great matters, because you want players that are going to put in the work to try to maximize on every ounce of the potential that they have as basketball players. And at number 15, whether it's Yaxel Lendeborg, Allen Graves, whether the Chicago Bulls move up, go after Morez, a Keaton Wagler, whatever it is, the Bulls seem to be really locked into the type of identity that they want to build. So let me know down in the comment section, right? Who do you think? Who's your favorite to land the Chicago Bulls coaching role? Are you buying Caleb Wilson as a culture changer potentially for the Chicago Bulls? And with the Bulls working out Keaton Wagler and Morez Johnson, do you think it's likely the Bulls try to be aggressive and move up and get one of those guys? Let me know that down below. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel as well. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode or an upload. You can follow us at Bull Central Pod on every social media platform. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. bullcentralpod@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you ready if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.